I work at a family hotel in Bali, and last month an American couple asked for a room far from their 6-month-old's nursery. The mom said she wanted the baby to learn independence and didn't want to hear crying through the walls. My colleague, who's Indonesian, went pale. She pulled me aside and whispered that in her village, parents who sleep away from babies are reported to authorities. The American seemed baffled when I suggested connecting rooms. The mom explained that attachment parenting creates codependency, and she'd read 3 books about sleep training requiring complete separation. My colleague spent her break calling her own mother to process what she'd witnessed. A Danish dad staying with us overheard the conversation. He mentioned that Scandinavian parents leave babies outside cafes and strollers. Nobody sleeps in different wings of their house. The American dad countered that Danes clearly don't understand neuroscience, because infant brains need isolated environments to develop self-soothing mechanisms. He'd attended a seminar on this. The Danish dad just stared at him, then asked if he was joking. When the American insisted he was serious, the Dane muttered something about Americans treating babies like science experiments. Later, housekeeping found the baby monitor had a 50-meter range. We had a Mexican family check in that same week. Their 3 kids, ages 2 through 7, were bouncing around the lobby at 10 p.m., and the American mom looked physically pained. She approached the Mexican mother and gently suggested that late bedtimes cause developmental delays and behavioral problems. The Mexican mom laughed and said her kids would sleep when tired. The American mom pulled out her phone to show research articles about circadian rhythms in toddlers. The Mexican dad interrupted and asked why Americans always act like childhood is a disease that needs curing. That question hung in the air for a solid 10 seconds. The American parents went to their separate wing room without another word. While the Mexican kids fell asleep at midnight in their parents' bed, my cousin manages a daycare in São Paulo, and an American expat enrolled her 2-year-old last year. During intake, she handed him a 4-page document titled Emotional Regulation Protocol that outlined when teachers could and couldn't comfort her daughter. The protocol specified that crying should be ignored for 7-minute intervals to build resilience. He read it twice, certain it was satire. It wasn't. The mom explained that Brazilian daycares are too permissive, and she needed structure that aligned with American developmental psychology. She'd researched this extensively. My cousin asked what happens after 7 minutes of crying, and she said, "Then you do calm-down coaching where you talk to the child from 3 feet away, without physical contact." He told her that every teacher would quit if forced to follow this, because watching a toddler sob alone violates basic human instinct. She seemed genuinely confused about why that mattered, saying feelings aren't facts when it comes to child development. The mom started showing up unannounced to observe nap time. She was horrified that teachers rocked children to sleep and let them curl up together on mats. She filed a formal complaint stating that co-sleeping arrangements create unhealthy attachment patterns and demanded individual sleep pods with sound barriers. My cousin explained that Brazilian children learn to sleep in social environments because that's how humans have slept for millennia. She interrupted him with statistics about sleep independence correlating with academic success in American studies. He asked if she realized she'd moved to Brazil. She replied that science doesn't have a nationality, then threatened to report the daycare for emotional neglect. She pulled her daughter out the next week and hired a sleep consultant from California via Zoom. I teach at an international school in Mumbai. We had an American family transfer in last semester. The parents requested a meeting to discuss their 8-year-old son's autonomy development plan, which required him to handle all conflicts independently without teacher intervention. They explained that rescuing children from social problems stunts their executive function. I mentioned that an 8-year-old getting bullied needs adult support. The dad said that's exactly the kind of coddling that creates fragile adults. And in America, kids learn to advocate for themselves, starting in kindergarten. He'd read multiple parenting books on this. I asked what happens when advocacy fails and the bullying escalates. He suggested role-playing exercises where his son practices assertive language, as if 3rd graders respond to conflict resolution frameworks. The mom added that Indian culture is too collectivist and doesn't value individual problem solving. I informed them that their son had been crying in the bathroom every day for a week. They asked if we'd given him coping strategies or just enabled his victimhood. The situation came to a head. When the boy got into a physical fight after weeks of harassment, the American parents showed up furious that teachers had broken up the fight, insisting their son needed to finish what he started to build confidence. They genuinely believed that adult intervention in child violence was cultural overreach. I explained that we don't run a gladiator academy. The dad countered that America's individualistic approach prepares kids for competitive global markets, unlike India's communal model that breeds dependency. He said this while his son sat in my office with a split lip, looking at his parents like he'd never seen them before. The mom asked if we had ice packs or if we expected parents to provide those too. They transferred him to an American school the following month, citing our helicopter policies. The kid had made friends here for the first time in his life, and they ripped him out. My brother works at a pediatric clinic in Nairobi. An American woman brought her 4-year-old in last year, demanding a referral to a child psychologist. The receptionist asked what was wrong. The mom said her daughter was showing signs of emotional dysregulation because she cried when left at preschool drop-off. My brother, who'd just finished examining the girl and found her perfectly healthy and socially normal, stepped in. He explained that 4-year-olds crying at separation is developmentally typical and not a psychiatric concern. The mom said that in the United States, persistent separation anxiety requires intervention by age 3. She'd consulted online forums extensively. My brother asked if she comforted her daughter during drop-off. She said absolutely not, because that reinforces the behavior. He suggested that maybe her daughter cries because she receives no comfort, not because she's disordered. The mom's face went blank. She asked if Kenyan pediatricians receive training in attachment theory. My brother, who trained in London, told her yes. She requested a different doctor. I manage a restaurant in Buenos Aires, and American tourists sometimes bring their kids in with backpacks full of separate meals. Last month, a family unpacked containers of plain pasta, chicken nuggets, and applesauce, while looking at our menu with visible distress. I approached their table and asked if something was wrong. The dad explained that their children only eat specific foods, and American restaurants always accommodate this. I told him our kitchen could modify dishes. He said modifications weren't enough because his kids have sensory preferences that require familiar textures. The mom added that forcing children to eat unfamiliar foods causes mealtime trauma. I watched their 6-year-old stare longingly at empanadas at the next table while eating nuggets from a thermos. When I suggested maybe he could try one bite, both parents recoiled. The dad said that pressuring kids around food creates eating disorders, and they've read extensively about this. I mentioned that Argentine children eat what their families eat. He replied that explains why Americans are more innovative thinkers, because they're raised to trust their preferences. The kid never got to taste the empanada. We had another American family last week whose 8-year-old requested steak. The parents asked if we could prepare it without seasoning. No salt, no pepper, no chimichurri, just plain cooked meat. Our chef almost walked out. I explained that we're an Argentine steakhouse, and seasoning is fundamental to our food. The mom said their daughter's palate is sensitive, and American children aren't forced to eat adult flavors. She suggested that maybe Argentine parents don't respect their children's autonomy. I told her that our children learn to appreciate quality food because we include them in food culture instead of segregating them. She asked if we had a kids menu with pictures. We don't. She spent 20 minutes searching nearby restaurants on her phone for chicken tenders while her daughter sat there looking embarrassed. They ended up leaving for McDonald's. The dad left a review saying, "We were anti-family because we don't serve child-safe options." Our restaurant has been family-owned for 3 generations. My sister runs a cafe in Hanoi. And an American mom came in last month asking for our kids' menu. We don't have one. Vietnamese children drink the same coffee their parents do, just with more milk, and they eat B&H me and FA like everyone else. The mom looked panicked and asked what children are supposed to order. My sister suggested a B&H bow or some spring rolls. The mom asked if we had anything less ethnic for her 5-year-old. My sister stared at her. She pointed out that we're in Vietnam, so Vietnamese food isn't ethnic, it's just food. The mom clarified that she meant less spicy and challenging. My sister explained that our food isn't particularly spicy. The mom insisted that American pediatricians recommend bland food for developing palates. and she wasn't going to risk her daughter's digestive health on foreign cuisine. She said this while Vietnamese toddlers at 3 other tables ate happily. My sister offered plain rice. The mom asked if it was white rice or brown rice because her daughter only eats jasmine rice from a specific brand. They left. The daughter looked back at the spring rolls. The whole way out. The American family returned 2 days later with a different strategy. The mom asked if we could make plain noodles with butter. No herbs, no vegetables, no sauce. My sister said she could do fare without the traditional spices. The mom asked what pho is. My sister explained it's soup with noodles. The mom wanted to know every single ingredient and preparation method before agreeing, then made us promise the broth contained no fish sauce, no star anise, no anything Vietnamese. At that point, my sister was just boiling noodles in water with a pinch of salt. The dad paid extra for this privilege. I'd explained that they're teaching their daughter to advocate for her needs in unfamiliar environments. My sister watched the kid eat flavorless noodles while staring at the Beyond Shake at the next table. When my sister offered her a taste, the parents physically moved the plate away and said they don't accept food from strangers. She's 5 years old in Vietnam, eating prison food while surrounded by incredible cuisine. And her parents think they're doing excellent parenting. I drive a taxi in Istanbul, and I picked up an American family from the airport last summer. Their 10-year-old son asked if he could sit in the front seat. Before I could respond, his dad said absolutely not, because Turkish safety standards are probably lower than American ones. And front seat placement increases injury risk by 47% in accidents. He'd researched this. I pointed out that I'd been driving for 15 years without incident. He replied that anecdotal evidence doesn't override statistical data. The kid slumped into the back seat next to his parents. During the drive, the boy noticed kids his age walking to school alone and asked why. The mom explained that Turkey probably has different safety awareness than America, where children aren't allowed independence until they demonstrate consistent judgment. The boy asked when he'd be allowed to walk alone. The dad said maybe at 16 if he completes their family safety protocol training. I caught the kid's face in the mirror. He looked like someone had just told him childhood lasts 2 more decades. The conversation got stranger when we passed a park full of children playing without adult supervision. The mom gasped and asked if there's no concern about predators in Turkey. I told her that communities watch out for all children, not just their own. She said that sounds lovely in theory, but Americans can't rely on strangers because everyone's too individualistic. I asked if she saw the irony in that statement. She didn't. The dad added that Turkish parents probably don't track crime statistics like Americans do, because he's read that 93% of kidnappings occur in unsupervised public spaces. I informed him that I've never heard of a child being kidnapped from this park in my entire life. He suggested that maybe Turkish media doesn't report it. The boy stayed quiet the whole ride, just watching free kids through the window. When we arrived at their hotel, he asked if he could walk around the block. His mom said they needed to unpack first. He's 10 years old. I work at a train station in Prague, and an American woman approached me last month in complete distress. She'd lost sight of her 7-year-old daughter on the platform for approximately 45 seconds. She was hyperventilating, asking if we had security footage and emergency protocols for missing children. I looked around and spotted her daughter 30 feet away, examining a map. I pointed. The mom sprinted over and grabbed the girl like she'd been rescued from a war zone. The daughter seemed confused about the panic. The mom kept saying she could have been taken, could have been hurt, could have been lost forever. The girl was literally visible the entire time. I tried to explain that Czech children her age take the tram alone regularly. The mom asked if the Czech Republic has different laws about child endangerment. I said, no, we just have different definitions of danger. She told me that American parents face legal consequences for that kind of negligence. She filed an incident report with our station manager about inadequate child safety measures. The daughter apologized to me on their way out. We had another incident last week where an American dad wouldn't let his 12-year-old daughter board a train without him. Even though she was going to stops to meet her mom, he demanded to see our liability insurance and asked what happens if something goes wrong. I explained that Czech tweens navigate public transport independently all the time. He said that might work in smaller countries, but American children need more protection because of higher crime rates. I informed him that Prague is safer than most American cities. He claimed he'd read State Department warnings about Eastern European public transport risks. I'm Czech. I've taken this train since I was 8. He insisted on accompanying his daughter despite her visible mortification. She kept saying she was fine, and he kept saying she thinks she's fine because she doesn't understand real danger. Other passengers were staring. When they got off together 2 stops later, I heard her asking why he doesn't trust her. He said trust isn't the issue, statistics are. That girl will probably never feel capable of independence. My aunt works at a language school in Seoul, and an American couple enrolled their 9-year-old in Korean lessons last year. During the first week, the teacher assigned students to walk to a nearby convenience store and practice ordering snacks in Korean. The American parents lost their minds. They showed up at the school demanding to know what kind of program sends children into the city unsupervised. My aunt explained that Korean 9-year-olds go everywhere alone, and the convenience store is 2 blocks away. The mom said that's irrelevant because their son has never been anywhere without adult supervision. They weren't informed he'd be placed in potentially dangerous situations. My aunt asked what danger she was imagining. The mom listed kidnapping, traffic accidents, getting lost, talking to strangers, making poor decisions, and general vulnerability. My aunt pointed out that dozens of Korean children were making the same trip. The dad said Korean parents clearly have different liability thresholds, but American standards require constant supervision until at least middle school. He'd consulted their family pediatrician about this. My aunt told them that their son would never learn independence if they don't let him practice. The mom replied that independence comes after safety, not before. They pulled him from the program and hired a private tutor who taught him Korean in their apartment. I volunteer at an international community center in Manila, and we hosted a parenting discussion last month with families from 12 countries. An American mom kept asking when everyone else's children became fully independent. The Filipino parents looked confused. The Brazilian dad asked what fully independent means. She explained that it's when kids can manage their own schedules, solve their own problems, and function without parental involvement. The Kenyan mom asked why that's a goal. The American mom seemed shocked by the question. She said independence is the entire point of parenting. You raise them to not need you. The room went silent. The Japanese mom finally said that in her culture, you raise children to value connection, not separation. The Italian dad added that his 25-year-old still lives at home, and nobody thinks that's strange. The American mom suggested that maybe that's why America leads in innovation, because we don't encourage dependence. The Egyptian mom laughed and said maybe that's why America leads in loneliness. The American mom had no response to that. She left early. The conversation continued after she left. Everyone started sharing stories about American parenting they'd witnessed. The common theme was that Americans treat children like projects with optimization, deadlines instead of like people who belong to families. The Swedish dad mentioned that American parents seem terrified of their children never leaving, so they push independence, starting from infancy. The Mexican mom said it feels like Americans are preparing their kids for emotional divorce. Someone pointed out that in most cultures, the goal is raising children who want to come home, not children who can't wait to leave. We all sat with that for a moment. Then the Korean mom asked if anyone had ever met an American adult who describes their childhood as warm. Nobody raised their hand. That's the real answer to why the world thinks American parenting is cold, because American children grow up cold. Everyone can see it except the parents.